All right. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the Acton Selectmen's meeting of March 11th, 2021. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and we'll pledge the allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all. All right. Before we get started, there's something I'd like to say. Before I want to discuss an email we received from a citizen after last week's meeting. The email shared concerns of a resident after watching last week's meeting and the behavior of an elected committee chair. She was appalled that such behavior was tolerated, and she was looking for a resolution from the select board. As selectmen and committee members, when we take on these positions, we are all supposed to uphold a code of ethics. I would like to briefly review some highlights from our policy. The professional and personal conduct of town officials while exercising their office must be above reproach and avoid even the appearance of impropriety. Town officials shall refrain from harassment, abusive conduct, intoxication, dishonest, and unprofessionalism. Furthermore, it states, town officials shall prepare themselves for public issues and listen courteously and attentively to all public discussions before the body. With that being said, I believe that when we are having a Board of Selectmen's meeting or any other town committee meeting, we all should be adhering to our oaths that we have taken and the policy that the boards have adopted. Our meetings are to conduct town business and not about personal issues or attacks on one another. No one that comes to a meeting, including selectmen, should feel attacked and feel the need to defend themselves. As this is a board meeting that I am running, I will not allow any more further attacks on anyone. There is no need for this kind of behavior at any meetings within the town. We are here to serve the people of Acton and keep our personal opinions of others to ourselves. It saddens me that this kind of behavior is happening in the town of Acton. We have a wonderful town with wonderful residents. We are lucky to have all of the committee members that volunteer for our town. We need to work together, not against one another. So from here on out, I want to work on town business, and I want to hear from the public, which we will listen respectfully to those speaking. But if these behaviors from the public continue, I will have no choice but to consider a change to our meetings, possibly removing public comment. I thank everyone in advance for abiding by our policies and our guidelines. Thank you. Town Administrator, it's your turn.
All right, not too many things for this week. The first was just a recap from the budget meeting on Saturday. I think that we've covered most everything in regards to the information the treasurer was going to get back. I just want to go over my list with you guys and see if there's something that I might have missed. Questions about the APAT revenue and the decrease over the next few years. There really wasn't a whole lot that she could do about that. The discussion of buying more mics and his current balance did come up, and Mr. Corey handled that through some emails between the Warrant and Finance and Treasurer, so he took care of that. You know that the restriping was a conversation they asked you to reconsider. In regards to the rec, they asked us to put the ice rink back in there for $1,210, and there was some issues with their revenues not adding up, so I've reached out to the rec committee, who has a meeting tomorrow night, and asked them to get in touch with Michelle so that we can get that budget updated and sent over to them. The conversation about the stipend positions, which ones are stipend and minimum wage, we did have a conversation, the treasurer and I, and the only one that's possibly questionable is the health officer, so we've reached out to her to talk about hours spent during COVID and see what, if anything, we need to do about that. Stipend, breakdown of the dam coalition that was requested, that's already been emailed, so you guys should have, everybody should have that. And those are all the follow-up notes that I had from the meeting. Is there anything that you recall we might have missed?
Doesn't sound like it.
Who was asking us to reconsider on the striping?
Well, it was just a road, I guess I put down road striping because it was a conversation
You
of
were
substance.
bringing up an overlay of what happened at the meeting the other day, is that what you were doing?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, yeah, and just, I mean, I wanted to, so the Warrant and Finance, I don't know if you've seen the emails yet, so they've got some meetings scheduled and they're bringing in some department heads. But because the treasurer was absent and I was taking notes on her behalf, I wanted to make sure I answered all of their questions. And I wrote down road striping, I guess probably just because of the conversation that was had about it, but there was really no follow-up similar to the APAT revenues. It was just a point of conversation. All right, so you have in front of you a big packet regarding the road bridge. Per your instruction, I reached out to Mr. Bean to talk to him about the Canal Bridge. He is coming to your Selectmen's meeting next Wednesday. He's gonna come to the Selectmen's meeting next Wednesday to talk about Canal and to talk about placing that new bridge on top and not touching the old one. I told him there were some follow-up questions. I did invite Wakefield and let them know that that meeting would be had if they had anything else. At the same time, while I had him on the phone, I spoke to him briefly about road bridge. I had told you guys last week where it stood with the town of Milton and their election changes. Mr. Bean was very proactive, as you can see in your packet. He went over to Road Bridge, he took a look at it, he put together a very detailed project and presentation, so he's gonna go through that with you next week as well, and we'll make sure that the road committee and road commissioners, whose side of town is that one, Road Bridge?
The Adams.
Adams, okay. We'll make sure their agenda,
Both bridges are on Adams' side.
oh, both are,
Yeah.
okay. We'll make sure that Adam is hopefully present at next week's meeting if he can, along with the road committee to discuss that. A resident reached out to me today in hopes that the board would set some instruction that your agendas be posted online and in advance. He believes that there are items that are being discussed at meetings and the publics aren't being given any notice as to what's gonna be on it, so he's asked me to make a request for transparency, to set a deadline and to instruct the administrator to put it online by, such and such day and time.
I think we've tried it before. It's just a matter of really us holding to the deadline.
Yeah, and
That's the
I
biggest
tried to
thing.
explain to
Things
him
are.
that was the difficult part. I
Yeah.
mean, we're adding, unfortunately, as things come up, we try to deal with them as they come up. You know what I mean? We don't wanna put anybody off, we wanna deal with what's on our plate. I mean, we can say that we'll post it by the end of business on Tuesdays, but I did say to him that the board has every right to add items, if they so choose, and he understood that. But he thinks that they should start being posted, like to advertise them on social media, so that, things, for example, like Mr. Fecto is gonna discuss marijuana tonight, he thinks that things like that might wanna be seen in advance. So I told him I would ask you, so.
I don't have a problem with it. I mean, I know we used to do it. I mean, but people have to be aware that things do come up.
Right.
And our agenda can change, and I think most people know that, so.
So we'll try to get the agenda up by the end of the day, Tuesday before we leave, and, try, I guess, depending on what comes up Wednesday, try to put it off until next
The problem
week.
is we're setting ourselves up for failure, because if we set a standard that we're gonna do it by a certain time on Tuesday, then all of a sudden you throw in a couple, like tonight when I showed up, somebody had called me.
Right.
They wanna be on the agenda for an issue that, could be a big deal. And they should be able to get on the agenda, but then we start allowing them.
Should we make things like that, should we make them wait till the next, because it's today, it happened today. Should we make those issues, for the next one? I don't know, I'm just,
No, I mean, they can either speak under
If
public
you have something
comment.
happen on a Tuesday night,
Right.
say there's, I don't wanna pick on road commission, but we'll make an example, because say they're out plowing and their mailbox got taken out, and someone who wants to be on agenda wants to know why their mailbox ain't getting taken care of. Well, we gotta wait till next week, because it happened at Tuesday at 8 o'clock, and on Wednesday, they're
No,
not
I-
allowed to be
Oh,
on.
we can always, like I said, you can always bring it up
Yeah, I
under
think we're
public
gonna-
comment for
Like I'm
us.
saying though, the
Yeah.
problem you're having is you're picking and now choosing who's getting on the agenda at a certain time, because if I call up, my problem isn't as necessary as the next problem, who's making that decision.
Right.
And I do understand that by doing this, it may make it easier for us, so that, we see the agenda, nothing surprises us. I'm just kind of worried about the idea that on Wednesday, there might be something that has to be put on
Yeah, I
the
mean,
agenda.
what if we
If it does,
put
it
a
does. I
statement
mean,
saying that,
that's-
the
yes.
Board of Selectmen reserve the right to add items to the agenda as they
Right,
see
definitely.
fit. I mean, we're never gonna please everybody, but you know what I mean, and we do our best to have as much on there as we can, but you're right, I mean, things come up and
Yeah.
What are we doing right now? Are we posting that?
No.
Okay.
you're not required by law to post agendas.
we used to, but then then I don't know what.
I mean, agendas,
yeah.
you know, you're not required to post agendas.
Yeah.
I mean,
A lot of
most,
times, I mean, like, you know, we may pull things off the agendas that might
yeah.
not be an issue too, like tonight,
True.
when I brought that up and we decided, no.
Right,
I
we don't
pull
need
thing out
to,
of the
yeah.
file and it's fine,
Right.
we're all set. So, I mean, if it makes them feel fuzzy, that they get to see it on the thing, then great, you know, I guess do it, but I don't.
Subject to change, I mean, that's all.
I mean, I'd like to know ahead of time, you know, really what we're doing, so it's not a bad thing. I know a lot of towns do that, so. Give it a shot and try it.
Yep.
next is just an FYI that, last week we noted a public hearing that was gonna be held on March 18th. This was for the proposed zoning ordinances. After discussion, that meeting was moved to a Zoom meeting in April, so, it didn't make the newspaper, it didn't make this public meeting, so I'm just clarifying it again, so that, zoning ordinance public hearing will move to April and it will go to Zoom. We'll have a date coming up for that. Next item is just, information that the town was, served with an ADB appeal notice of a municipal government, decision today. This is regarding a zoning board of appeals decision that was made, in February. So we will turn that over to the town attorneys to handle. The treasurer is asking, if all goes well as far as the dates that I have to propose with you tonight, to have a brief meeting with her next Tuesday at 4 o'clock. Basically, we know what we expect the school to do tomorrow night in regards to their budget and the undesignated fund. She needs some final decisions from you guys as far as the warrant and what you're moving forward and what you're not. We've never really, so she's got a couple of questions, so by then you'll know what the school is. So the idea is that if we can have this meeting next Tuesday, then possibly on Wednesday, we can give you a draft warrant, and then the warrant and finances meeting, I think, on the 22nd, so we could have a warrant to them as early as that, if we can get you guys together on the 16th, with us.
16th?
Good.
Last item was, a note from Square Pond Improvement Association. They're wondering if they can, they're putting their newsletter together, and they're wondering if they can possibly use the town hall, for 2 dates, in the upcoming year. They did say that they have generally between 25 and 60 people. They would, abide by COVID. They understand that it may change, but they're really looking to release this, newsletter and hopefully have the dates penciled in. One was in, I left my note, June, and one was in August?
Last Saturday in June, last Saturday in August.
June and August, so.
Where do we sit right now, as far as, at that point,
So,
as far as we know?
we're still at 50, March 24th. We've got some changes coming forward from the governor, but we're gonna have to calculate percentages. I still think that 50 will be the limit for, you know, based on the square footage here, but we'll have to take a closer look at it.
Yeah, you're not gonna fit 50 in here anyway.
Right, especially with the distance between them.
Right,
Right.
right.
So and what did they say, 40?
They said
40,
25 to 60.
Yeah,
65 to 60, so.
I don't think we can,
Can we hold it
Accommodate.
off till the 24th, see if things change, and then
Yeah, well, I
get back
have
to
the, I
them?
have the
And see
executive
if-
order that you can read. I'm not sure, like Ed said, I don't think you'll get 50 in here with the.
No.
you're not gonna get 50, you wouldn't get 50 in here on a good day, let alone COVID.
Right.
So-
Well, the order is, what does the fire chief have it at, 87?
It's on the
It's
wall
less
over
than
there, it's
that
less than
now,
that, I
I
think.
All over
think. He went
50.
down.
I thought it was 30-something, but,
All right, well, let's table it till next week. I'll
Yeah.
pull that, March order. We'll double check those numbers and
Okay.
see if we can
Yeah.
decide next week. I mean, you know, people are starting to ask if we're using the hall, and we're still continuing to say no, so I'm not gonna keep asking you unless, I mean, this is kind of a town, it's kind of not, but we've had birthday party requests. We're still saying no until you give us some other instruction. Is that still
I
the,
think really at this point in time.
I mean, we really
until
can if they think they're
I
gonna be
think we're still
happy.
at no.
Yeah,
I think we ought to just be doing none.
Until it changes.
Because we don't know exactly how many people are gonna show up at any of these events.
Right.
And when it, unfortunately, if we let one association do it, then we almost gotta let them all do it.
Yeah.
because you're gonna start getting road associations, they're gonna have
I'd say
to-
we just stick with no right now until further notice.
Until it's opened up.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
okay. And that's all I have, Madam Chair.
all righty, thank you. We did warrants,
I did.
David? Yep.
Yep.
So I'm gonna make a motion to approve,
The agenda?
the agenda, sorry. Can I have an approval of the agenda?
I'll make a motion, we approve the agenda.
Sorry. Did David second it?
I did, yeah.
Okay, thank you very much. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? All opposed? Thank you. All right, now we'll move on to the minutes of the last meeting, which I went through. So I want to make a motion to approve the minutes of the Selectmen's meeting of March 3rd, 2021.
You
I'll
made
make
a
a motion, we approve the minutes of March 23rd, March 3rd.
Okay,
I'll second that.
thank you. It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? All opposed? Thank you. All right, department head, committee chair updates. Okay, old business, A, disability resolution.
And Mr. Donahue has requested that he be able to phone in. The phone jack is not working, so
Okay,
I guess I'm gonna use my phone.
all righty.
Hi, this is Jeff.
Hi Jeff, it's Jennifer Rue.
Hi, Jennifer.
Hi, so we are under old business, the disability resolution. I'm gonna move my cell phone to the chair, to the Board of Selectmen's table, but can you hear us okay?
I can, yes. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Just a second. And bear with us, because this is the first time we've kind of tried to do this, so.
Okay, and they have the resolution in front of them?
Yes, they do. We do. I can't promise that nobody will.
Let me know when you're ready.
Oh, okay, just a second.
Sure.
All right, you can go ahead, Jeff.
Can you hear me now?
Can anybody else out there hear him?
I hear him.
Okay, yes, Jeff.
Okay, I have a woman, Samantha, out here with me as well. She wanted to be here. So my name is Jeff Donahue, and I'm speaking to you by phone tonight from outside of the town hall because of the restrictions placed on the state by the governor of Maine and my inability to wear a face covering. I am a disabled acting resident and a member of Beacon for Sovereignty. Briefly, Beacon for Sovereignty is a coalition of individuals from all walks of life working together to strengthen, restore, and protect our communities and the rights of the people of Maine. I come to ask you that you enact the ADA preservation resolution that you have in front of you. I would first like to point out that the CDC recommends and recognizes medical exemptions on all of their mask mandate recommendations. Why is it that a request to do the rest of the... Sorry, I lost my spot.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm working off a pad and I touched it and that messed it all up. Okay, I come to you and ask you that you enact the ADA preservation resolution that you have in front of you. I would first like to point out that the CDC recommends and recognizes medical exemptions on all of their mask mandate recommendations. Why is it that a request to do what the rest of the United States is doing and the CDC recommends considered extreme when removing the medical exemptions from Maine mask mandates are the most extreme measures taken in the United States? As a disabled acting resident, I'm asking the Selectmen to adopt this resolution. Many of us are unable to wear a mask for various medical reasons. We are all able to keep our afflictions to ourselves until now. We shouldn't have to be able to explain to anybody why we cannot wear a mask to do the things that we need to do, things that we've done for years. We should be able to do all of those things without fear of confrontation or being harassed and bullied while out in the public. For decades, people fought for equal rights for all people. In America, Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 prohibits discrimination based on disability in any program or activity operated by recipients of federal funds. This legislation led the way to the Americans with Disability Act of 1990. The Americans with Disability Act became law in 1990. The ADA is a civil rights law that prohibits discrimination against individuals with disability in all areas of public life, including jobs, schools, transportation, and all public and private places that are open to general public. We feel that segregation is not a reasonable accommodation for people with disabilities, It goes against the principles of the Disabilities Act of Equality in everyday life. By signing and implementing this resolution, you will be preserving equal rights for disabled residents of Acton. That's all I have.
Okay, thank you.
Well, as far as discussing this, the sixth paragraph down, or the sixth block down, states that the people of Maine believe Governor Janet T. Mills' Executive Order 19 FY 2021 violates the Federal Americans with Disability Act. That to me would say that that he has more of a, he really should be fighting this with the governor, not with us. And as far as us trying to do something with this.
Really bad, Ed.
Hold on a second.
He's to speak after we're done
Can you
speaking.
hear me?
He can't hear him.
Yes,
Can you hear me now?
Is that better?
I can, yes.
Okay. Could you hear me before?
You were breaking up really bad. You referenced the paragraph, and I don't have it right in front of me.
Okay, I got mine.
But from what I heard, you said that the resolution says that a certain mandate was against the ADA.
Okay, the paragraph, it's the sixth block down in your resolution, states that whereas the people of Maine believe Governor Janet T. Mills' Executive Order 19 FY 2021 violates the Federal American with Disabilities Act. Okay? That,
Yes.
to me, would say your fight is more with the governor than it is with us. The problem we have is when we take our oath of office, our oath states that we do swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States and of the state, as long as I shall continue a citizen thereof. So, with that being said, if I sign this, I'm violating my Constitution, I'm violating the oath of office that I take as selectman. So, I'm just saying flat out I can't sign it.
Okay, on that same note, that if later on, say a year from now, and you're still selectman, and it's determined by a judge that these mandates were against the Constitution, are you still gonna stand by your oath?
I think, Ed, we've had the lawyer looking at this, we've done all our homework on this, that I feel that,
Can
you hear Mr. Winchell?
If it's decided later on that this is actually against the Constitution, will you stand by your oath and resign from office?
I'm not going to be put in that position. I'm standing by the Constitution of the United States and the state of Maine, as my oath
You'll stand by it
stands.
later on as well, right?
As my oath stands.
You'll stand by your oath later on as
You've
well,
heard my,
right?
you've heard my,
We can hold you to that oath.
honestly, at the end of the day, we've gone over this over and over and over. The problem we're having here is we're going by the state mandate, nobody wants to do. We've had lawyers,
it's not
excuse me,
law.
Jeff, I'm speaking, okay? And over, we've had lawyers look at it, saying we're doing exactly what we have to do. We've given concessions, done whatever we had to do to make sure that we're abiding by this. And if we sign this, all we're doing is, we're gonna go against, this is just this is propaganda. We're going against exactly what the state's telling us to do. And we don't wanna do that. I'm not getting sucked into that.
My question is the same as Ed, is to you.
Yep,
Will you
I will-
stand by
I will-
later on if this...
I
if this
will
is found
stand
to be
by
violated?
exactly what I said. I will stand by what our lawyer told us. And, I don't believe I'll be resigning anytime soon.
Who runs the town?
The 3 selectmen.
And a lawyer, and lawyers.
Yeah, we have to have lawyers because, Jeff, every time you turn around, you're sticking us with paperwork that would put us in jeopardy. And that's why we have lawyers, and I don't like having to have lawyers.
The other way around, Dave, I think that you're putting the town in a very poor position to have lawsuits taken against them.
Well, whatever, I guess.
The ADA.
Honestly, Jeff, that's why we have the lawyers look at this, to make sure that we're covered. If we turn around and we sign this, okay, we're going against the state of Maine's mandate over some, honestly, Jeff, this is...
Somewhat, Dave.
What's that?
Somewhat.
Some stuff there that's written up by a website, okay, and a few people, okay? We're just abiding by the state mandate.
That was written by a representative, one of the Maine state representative and his lawyers.
And I understand that, okay?
It's not, it should pull off from...
Then why isn't that representative here, okay, and his lawyers, okay?
This was written by lawyers and a Maine state representative.
And we've had a lawyer look in it, told us we're doing what we're supposed to be doing. And we've had the state call us, and with all the emails that we have, and all the paperwork we have, I believe we will be just fine.
So the state pressured you into making your decision too?
No.
Honestly, at the end of the day, this is a bunch of, hogwash.
We are just
cannot do
going
that,
by
you know
what
that.
what the governor of the state of Maine and their executive order states.
Jeff, this is Kim. Jeff?
It's unfortunate that you people will turn your back on the disabled residents of this town.
No, that's not what we're doing.
My friend,
It's not what we're doing.
It's
This
not
is-
reasonable.
but
Me
it's-
standing outside of my selectmen meeting to voice my concerns to my selectmen from outside the building is ridiculous.
No
And it's
problem.
against the Maine Constitution.
Well, we've tried several different options we've offered you, and we've made a decision, all three of us, I believe, that we're not gonna sign this.
No.
So,
Is that the roll call, all three?
yes,
Is that your
Yes.
vote?
Motion on it,
Did you
right?
vote?
No?
Make a motion if you're not
No,
signing.
Yes.
I ain't signing that.
I'll make a motion that we do not sign the resolution that was put in front of us.
I'll second that.
all right, so it's been moved and seconded, all in favor? All opposed?
Done.
Done. So, we've made a decision, Jeff.
Okay.
We'll have to stick by it,
Have a
okay?
good night then.
All right, you too, thank you.
Jeff, do you
Oh,
still
hold
want to
on.
speak on a public comment on a different subject?
I think I've said enough for today.
Okay,
Good night.
bye-bye.
Okay. So moving on, B, moorings.
I checked with the code enforcement officer as you instructed me to do, and, he does not have any knowledge or background on this. It wasn't something they really had to deal with in the prior town, so, at this point, he can't offer a lot of assistance without looking into it.
Okay. This was really just an issue we've only had one issue, correct?
We had one person contact
One
us.
complaint or whatever you want to call it. Okay,
This year, yes.
yeah.
Yep.
I don't recall any in past years.
We did have some people come in and talk to us.
That was the same.
That was the same.
That's the same.
Okay, is it just, okay,
Yeah.
that's what I was wondering, okay.
Yeah, yeah,
All right, well,
yeah, I don't know.
I mean, unless we get more people that are, I guess, willing to come in and say they're having issues, do you feel we need to look into it, or do you want to just kind of wait and see what happens?
Well, I mean, like you said before, we've only had just one complaint that I know of in the last so many years.
Yeah,
And the unfortunate part is if you set up a,
I don't know, how
what do
we,
you call it, someone to enforce that on
harbor master,
how many leaks we got.
yeah, yeah.
right?
So, I mean, to make a big deal out of this, I'd like to see some more interest in it. That's why I think I asked them, I didn't realize they were from out of state, so, I mean, but, if this is a really big deal, I think that's something they should petition on, and if it is a big deal, we'll have to roll with it, obviously. At this point in time, I don't think there's enough to go on.
Okay. Well, moving on then, we'll go to C, warrant and finance information policy.
So last week, we started talking about this policy, and the instruction I heard from you was to change the last paragraph. So we've completely reworded it based on what I believe your direction is. So I'm going to read it out loud and get your feedback. The Board of Selectmen encourages communications between the Warrant and Finance, their liaisons, and the various department heads and committee chairs within the town. This policy is intended to ensure all information or documents requested from any town department or committee are distributed to all members of the Warrant and Finance. It is not intended to prohibit communications. In an effort to maintain transparency and abide by the Freedom of Information laws, meetings with department heads or committee chairs shall be held at properly posted meetings where all members of the Warrant and Finance are afforded the right to attend. So it stands by the first 4 sections, that information that anybody on the committee wants from any department, they make the request to the chair. Chair goes to the town administrator, we get the information, we send it out to all the members on their behalf. It doesn't say in any way that they can't communicate with department heads. It encourages communication, but, it, requests that they have them at public meetings so that everybody, all the members can be there. So, short of that, I'm looking for verbatim wordage from you guys on what you're looking for.
I think it looks good. I mean, I don't know how you two feel. I mean, I read it
Yeah.
earlier and looked
I
at
think
it,
that clears it right up and makes it,
Yep.
yep.
David?
Yeah, no, I think it's perfect.
And just so you know, one of the items, if you haven't seen the emails yet, on the March 22nd meeting from Warrant and Finance, the chair does ask that the Board of Selectmen go to that meeting on the 22nd and explain this policy, and go through it. So it's coming from you to the committee and not from the chair trying to interpret what you may or may not mean.
Okay. Yeah, I guess,
Need a motion?
I need a motion.
Make a motion, we adopt the, I think that would be the right word. The Warrant and Finance request for internal information policy.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. All in favor? All opposed? All right.
Thank you.
All right, so we're going to move on to new business. A is Gil Fecto. Come on up.
I printed out some, this is mine.
I can distribute them for you if you want to get started. Am I do it for you?
Oh, you're gonna distribute it? Perfect. Okay. This is my spot here.
Yep.
Do you need a podium to put that on, or you want that?
No, I'm all set.
Thank you.
Can you hear me? No? How about now?
I think Mike's working on it. There we go.
Right now.
I guess everybody can hear me now. My name is Gil Fecto. I've been a resident in this town for 21 plus years. The reason I want to bring forward this medical and adult use marijuana information packet, that's all what it is, to make everyone aware of what the changes are going to be coming up at the state level. And this is only for information for the residents of Acton, so they can make a better informed decision or decisions in the near future about how marijuana is going to be handled within the town. If you go to the second page, okay, so I kind of put in some questions and some answers and benefits and concerns. So why would the town create an ordinance for cannabis, medical cannabis, since the state already allows it? All the towns have to have medical cannabis, they have to allow it. The reason being is because the state laws are going to change. The state is revamping the medical marijuana rules and regulations. They're aligning it with the adult use. It increases their regulations by almost 30 pages. Currently, they're 66 pages long. And they're going to, for the caregivers are going to have town approval and authorization going forward. And that's going to happen this year. For the adult use, anybody who's doing adult use marijuana has to have an operation plan, a cultivation plan, a security plan, and many other little tidbits. And they have to meet all these different regulations. Going forward, the home use medical caregivers are going to have to do the same thing. So what would be the benefit to the town, right? So the benefit to the town is that it would protect the town from commercial growers and commercial manufacturers. I didn't realize until I started looking at this that some growers can open up 20,000 square foot operations growing marijuana and whatever size building to process it. Then they could have a store, all for adult use. If we have no regulations or no ordinances protecting the town residents from these large operations, it will happen. You know, our doors are open. Every town is going to come up against a medical marijuana or the adult use. It's at our doorstep, so we need to be proactive and work towards setting in place controls and regulations to protect ourselves going forward. What if the town votes in the cannabis ordinance? Well, it would regulate the cannabis adult use and caregiver medical. The town can't forbid medical marijuana, and they can't restrict how many licenses they would issue, right? I guess now you don't issue licenses. But by the medical being in line with the adult use for home growing, where home operations, right, not the commercial, they're going to be identical rules, identical laws, but the only difference is that the town would be able to restrict the amount of licenses they would issue to the adult use. The medical, you wouldn't be able to restrict the licenses. But by having an ordinance, it would allow the town to be able to put in place some controls. I had spoken with Kenneth Paul many months ago about some of this stuff, and he said some of the complaints he had received was odor. Then in the ordinance, there could be an odor control policy that everybody who grows marijuana for a business has to have some odor control.
Odor? You said-
Odor, yeah.
Odor control?
Yeah.
Okay, you're muffled a little bit,
Yeah, sorry about the mask.
Yeah.
But it's, so let's move on. What would the town do to prepare? Well, the town has the ability to create a carefully thought out plan to set the foundation to ensure proper policies and controls are enacted, right, to meet state requirements. The last thing we want to do as the town of Acton is to wait until the end where we're reactive instead of being proactive. You know, all the other towns, there's more slides. We'll talk about that as I move on. What if the town does not pass some sort of ordinance? Well, we all know that cannabis cultivation is eventually going to reach our town. And it is our responsibility to lay out the building blocks for our town's future. And I honestly believe that. And in an ordinance, who could have a cannabis business in town? I think, as it's stated in other adjoining towns, it should be residents, full-time residents only. You don't want an out-of-state grower to come in and open up an operation in the town of Acton. The next slide is the current state, is what the, page 3, is what the caregiver medical in the state. This was as of, all this data I pulled off the the main marijuana office on the government site. Currently, as of the beginning of this month, there was 3,058 caregivers in the state of Maine, right? And there's 207 pending applications that they're processing. A home occupation business, they can grow between 30 and 60 mature plants, right? And the main medical use of marijuana program, the rules are currently 66 pages long, but they're being amended to include most of the adult use rules and regs. So the application process for caregivers at the moment is they apply, they pay their fee, and the fee is like $1,200, and the state issues them a license. If they meet the background check, they get a license. End. And all of the section 4, I got on the bottom here, I copied that right from the website. That is everything that the caregiver can apply for. So, and the future state is number 4. The future state is there'll be an application process. I'm sure the fees aren't going to drop, but then they're going to issue a conditional license. And with that conditional license, they'll receive a form that they're going to have to come to the Selectmen to be approved to approve their license.
And this is just medical, right?
This is just medical right
Okay.
here, right?
Yep.
And the municipality is gonna have to, have something in place, because part of that form says that, one of the questions is, does this town have, or the municipality have, an ordinance or a warrant article allowing that type of marijuana operation in your town? And you do not. So I'm kind of gray as to how.
I thought with the medical use, we can't do that. We can't touch the medical marijuana,
Correct.
right? At this point.
At this point,
Okay.
but once the laws change,
All right.
and that will happen this year, so at the end of the year, you're gonna get bombarded for approvals from caregivers, because it's gonna be required by the state. Then other changes that will happen for the medical use is, the state has an electronic portal. It's a track and trace program that you have to tag each plant with an FRD tag, a radio frequency tag. And that barcode on that tag follows the product, follows the plant, once the plant is harvested, it follows if it goes into a tincture or an edible, that tag follows the product to sales.
It's a lot of work.
So if there's a quality control issue, then it goes right back to the grower. They know what batch it came from, they know what plant it came from, they know what kind of fertilizer was used on the plant. It's very highly controlled. And that's how it is in the adult use, and they're bringing that into the medical. And also, they're gonna add, the medical is gonna be required to do operation plan, basically a layout of where everything's gonna be grown, everything's gonna be processed, a cultivation plan where everything's gonna be harvested, stored, and, and a security plan, where they have to install cameras, and to monitor the entire operation 24 hours a day, and I think it has to record for 48 days. So they have a record in case, stuff gets stolen, or misused. So that is the future state for medical. The next one, number 5, is adult use. Adult use, the process right now is you apply, you receive a conditional license, you have to get town approval or city approval. If there's no ordinance in place, and you don't get your license.
If I can interrupt you for 1 second.
Go ahead.
Address us.
Okay. I'm
Thank
sorry.
you.
So you have to have local authorization to be able to get a license. And right now, as of the beginning of this month, the state has had 518 total applications. They've processed 56 issued active licenses since last October. And they have 362 conditional licenses which are waiting for town approvals. And they have 93 pending licenses that they're processing. Now, number 6, page 6, is the current state is, I kind of laid out what the home occupation versus the commercial. In cultivation, there's tier 1, which is 30 mature plant or 500 square feet of canopy. And that is considered a home occupation. It's a small business, just like caregivers. Then you go tier 2, 3, and 4, where you start getting into the thousands of square feet of canopy. And the canopy means it is mature plants, only mature plants. So if they have 20,000 square feet of mature plant canopy, then they have to have probably 40,000 square feet of immature plants, and God knows how many square feet for seedlings. Okay? And if you, well, I'll go to, then the next level is a nursery. The nursery can sell plants, seeds, equipment, anything that's required to grow marijuana. Then there's a product manufacturing, which could be a home occupation, or commercial. And that's where edibles, concentrates, infused products are manufactured and ready for sale, right? Then there's the retail stores. Those are commercial. There's the medical retail stores, and there's the adult use retail stores. Then there's the testing facilities. Right now, there's only 2 testing facilities in the whole state that have been approved, one in Portland and one in Kennebunk. Okay? And if someone applies for a testing facility license, they cannot get any other licenses, because it'd be a conflict of interest, being a grower and also being a tester. When someone applies for an adult use license, they have to apply for each one of those individually. So if you want to be a cultivator, you have to apply for a cultivating license. And if you want to be a product manufacturer, to convert that into a saleable product besides, buds, or then you have to apply for a product manufacturing license. And if you want to sell it, instead of selling it wholesale to a store, if you want to open up a retail store, you also have to apply for a license for retail. So in this adult use, they split it up. In the medical, it's all combined, right? And the adult use marijuana program rules currently are 110 pages long. So the state kind of covered every aspect. And they're bringing a lot of these rules and laws into the medical side. The next, slide 7, is the state has an opt-in program for the towns. Currently, as of the beginning of the month, there was 56 towns that had opted into the adult use marijuana program. And they can pick and choose what areas they want to allow in their town or city. For instance, here, there's 53 towns which are approving cultivation, the grow. There's 3 that do not. So, and the towns can opt in. For instance, if Acton wants to opt into the grow and into the manufacturing, that's all you need to do. You can disallow retail, disallow testing facilities. You can kind of pick and choose your own menu, right? So if you go to the next slide, the next slide is basically, I kind of did the adjoining towns, our neighboring towns. What do they allow, right? For instance, Berwick allows everything except testing facilities.
What about Alfred?
Excuse me?
I see Alfred doesn't allow anything.
Alfred doesn't allow anything at all. Okay.
Well, caregiver's medical home, they allow that.
Yeah, the caregiver medical is allowed currently at all towns, and the laws will not change.
Right.
They will be allowed. So if you look at, let's say, Kennebunk only allows testing facilities. They do not allow anything else. Lebanon allows everything, you know. So, and Sanford, currently they only allow medical manufacturing and caregiver. They're in the process of looking at the cultivation and the manufacturing for adult use, and they're in the process of rewriting their ordinance to make that happen. Any questions so far? Okay. And page 9 and 10 is basically a draft ordinance. What I did is I went to all these different towns and pulled all their ordinances and kind of snippet the pieces that I thought were applicable to Acton. I'm certainly not a subject expert on any of this stuff, but I just thought it'd be helpful to pull some of this information as to what the town could or could not do. So the bottom line is, and also the last page is that our town has an ordinance to limit home cultivation. It was enacted in 2018. So it could be that this ordinance could be modified to repair, you know, to put some controls in place, because the medical caregiver in the near future will be identical to the home occupation, adult manufacturing, and adult cultivation. There won't be any difference at all. The only difference is that you'll be able to regulate the amount of licenses for adult use. That's it. Everything else will be the same. So,
Do you have any idea when that change is gonna go into effect?
excuse me?
Do you have any idea when that change is gonna go into effect?
Well, the new draft is online already. It was drafted in January. They're having meetings throughout the state. I think they're all virtual, with different growers and different individuals to look at all the regs and regulations. So they're taking comments from you know, all the whoever wants to give them a comment, and they're seeing how that fits in their rules and regs. But it will happen. I did call their office, and I spoke to a representative there, and he told me that this should be enacted, be in place by the end of the year. So this is just an information packet to let everyone know what's happening with the medical business in Maine, the laws and the rules. And I feel that we as a town need to either modify an ordinance or write an ordinance to be able to set some controls and, create a path for what the future is going to be like in Acton, because it's going to be on our doorstep. And if we're not
Completely agree with you.
Huh?
I completely agree with you. I mean, we had the moratorium. I don't know if that's passed yet, hasn't passed yet, has it?
Well, we
Moratorium's coming
passed our
on.
ordinance, but, it is something that we definitely need to start working on, especially if they're gonna change the caregiver, and they're gonna have to start coming to us. I mean,
Yes, the caregivers are going to start coming to the town for approval.
So,
I'm just confused on how we're able to enforce any of it.
Well, for the caregivers...
There's so many of them right now doing
Yeah,
it.
but you will be able to enforce it. You can't restrict them from being in business, but you can stop them from being in business until they've gotten a license. And the license could be based on things they need to do.
Through the town.
No, things they need to do in their business.
Okay.
Either the waste disposal,
so that would be something for like a planning board to work on, wouldn't it be?
that,
I don't know if that's something there, I mean,
Because we talked about it it's been quite a while.
Yeah, I mean, you had a marijuana committee, and
Right.
maybe it's a good time to get some of them back together, and maybe see if Mr. Fector wants to join them.
yeah.
Yeah.
And kind of come up with some ideas for the board,
Because we've talked about it on and off
hearings.
for the
I think
need.
the planning board would have to be part of it, because I mean,
Well,
there's
yeah,
gotta be
'cause
some
you've got
sort of
zoning
zoning and stuff that we
yeah,
have
there's
to worry
just-
about.
Yes, yeah.
School zone, all that.
Well, there is a provision that you can't be within 1,000
Some
feet
feet.
of either a private or a public school, or a daycare, that type of stuff.
That's in our ordinance too, I think.
I'd say we reenact
Marijuana
reactivate
committee.
the marijuana committee see if they're all interested in getting back on board and
Yeah,
put it
because
back through the process.
I think it's really important. that
And they
the
did a
town-
great job of going through everything in great detail before. Yeah, that's what I'd say.
Because I did read those are online, right?
Yep.
Yeah, that was,
Yeah, when it prints out, it's about that thick.
yeah, I did.
Yeah, they did a great job.
Through it.
They did a lot of
On
work.
both sides of the aisle on
Yeah.
it, so. Yeah,
And so I
It's
can,
it's not going anywhere, it's coming. We are gonna have to start figuring out how to, regulate it and what we want for our
Exactly.
town, so.
I mean, they're growing that stuff all over town now. You can smell it whenever you drive by, but that's
Right.
what I'm worried about is that.
And
it's
some
the-
towns are limiting the grow operation to indoor operations only, and have
think those are the
carbon
worst ones.
filter, they insist that there's a carbon filter exhaust.
Yeah, that's definitely
So
something
to
we would-
control the odor of the marijuana. That's how they're doing it, and if a caregiver wants to grow, then he's gonna have to do the same thing. He's gonna have to meet the same rules and regs in the ordinance that everybody else is gonna have to meet. Otherwise, he's not gonna get his license to be able to operate. And you're not restricting him from being in business, you're just saying, I will give you a license to go in business, but you have to meet all these rules, like every other town does around us,
Any other business.
yeah.
you know?
so I will work on the next day or two, I'll work on contacting everybody that was on the marijuana committee, see who's still interested in serving on it. Certainly, Mr. Vector, hopefully you would
And
join that
give me
committee.
advice, yeah?
Would you be interested in serving on the committee with them?
Yes, I would.
Okay, so I'll reach out and hopefully by next Wednesday, Mr. Nass is raising his hand. Hopefully by next Wednesday, I'll have some
Good
names
with
for
it.
you.
Had enough, have you on it?
Is this open for discussion now, or what?
Not
Not until public comment.
not till public comment, we'll get there.
Yeah,
Okay?
Thank you
We're
for
good,
coming
thank
in
you.
and going over all this with
yeah,
us.
yeah, thank you very much for bringing it to our attention.
All right, B would be the APAT purchase.
Mr. Corey is here to go over the server purchase that was approved at last year's annual town meeting. They have copies of the contract in front of them.
Yeah, that's the contract we intended to
Thank you.
sign. Here's the written statement that I had given Jennifer.
Thank you.
Along with the other contracts and an older version of the contract that you have in front of you.
Okay.
So just for the public's sake, so you went out, to the best of your ability, went out and got another bid for something similar. This is one of those items that, you know, it's not like we can advertise it in the newspaper and ask for quotes. So he reached out and found a couple of companies that offered a similar product and got bids on both of them. Do you want to just talk about the difference between the two and why you chose this one?
Yeah, well, the first thing is this is not a product you can go to Walmart and find. It's a specialized piece of equipment that is difficult to locate vendors for. So once I found, I mean, our current vendor, it was still challenging to find a reseller for our product. Once I found them, I had to go and reach out to other vendors for a competitive bid. And when I did, I found a different product that was completely different from our current equipment. The quotes that I received are about $1,000 different, but over the big picture, they are quite unique and diverse. Telview, in the written statement, Telview has a lower upfront purchase cost of $10,709. However, there is an additional module. The Telview, it's very modular, so I can purchase and get new equipment for other functionality. One being the slides that we do that are advertising our events or public notices. That's an additional module, so you get to purchase that as well. On top of that, you have an annual fee of roughly $2,000 for the slideshow and the support. So over 5 years, you spend an additional $10,000 on support and services. Electronics is the current product we use. It's roughly 11 years old now. It's still kicking. It's out of support, I believe, because it's no longer produced by the company. But if we were to purchase a new unit at $11,000, 116, we would have 5 years of hardware warranty and support on the software support on the product for its life. So as long as the product is in function, we will have the ability to do updates and call them for any software related support. And like I said, the hardware is 5-year warranty. So that is a one-time purchase up front for $11,116. My recommendation is to continue utilizing the current product we have, electronics, at $11,116. It would be nice to have the Telview unit, but it would really cut our budget down to nothing. And as we talked about at the Warrant and Finance meeting, the likelihood that the APAT franchise agreement check will probably diminish over time.
So you're saying we're gonna save about $8,000 to $10,000 by going with that, the late next?
Yeah, the electronics unit. The Telview product, like I said, costs $2,000 annually. We get the first get the first couple of years on them, but after that, we'll have to pay the annual fee for support and services. And over time, the budget is, shoestring as it is.
What is the electronics says that there's a yearly subscription of $12.95,
That's,
is that optional?
yeah, that's
And
optional.
that's not
We've
something you're
never-
gonna need to
Yeah, we've
do?
never purchased that yearly subscription, it's not necessary.
So, we got the Teleview at $10,709. You're talking about an annual cost of $2,000, 5 years, 10 grand. Or we got the late next proposal for $11,116, with a 5-year warranty. Don't have to worry about all that other stuff, it all comes with it.
Right.
And there's only a difference of $407
Up front,
up front.
right.
So, I mean, and you're going with the late next?
Yeah, the electronics one, that
Electronics
costs a
is
little more
the one.
upfront, but over
Yep.
time,
It's gonna save us,
yeah,
definitely.
we won't dig into the annual budget.
There was enough money last year approved for that?
Yep, $11,120, I believe.
Yes, $4 to spare.
All right.
Does this include shipping?
Shipping and installation as well.
Okay.
Well, there we go.
No one has a first-hand check today.
I'm recommending we go with electronics, for the upfront cost of $11,116.
Okay.
Want a,
Do we need to make a motion?
yep.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we approve the electronics proposal as presented by our APAT director for $11,116.
I'll second that.
All right, it's been moved and seconded. Any conversation here or anything? We've decided, all right, so all approve, all opposed? Thank you.
I'll get you a signed contract tomorrow.
Again, the contract, the live contract is the one that's printed out and you have underneath.
Okay,
One I have.
Okay.
thank you.
Mail it to you tomorrow.
Can we take a couple-minute break?
Yep. Just wanna make sure we're only signing one.
This one right here, right?
That's in color, so we do.
This is, not that one, that's the wrong one. No, I just had it right here, I thought. This is a Teleview. That's the one right there? Okay, well, we'll take that one and sign it. Where do we sign it? Right here, customer authorized, right here? Date, 3/10. Is that the only one we're gonna sign?
The 16th, is that at 4 o'clock with the treasurer? What do you want me to sign, just beside or below? Beside.
Sign that one. Thank you. All right, moving on, we're gonna go to C, draft warrant, public hearing date.
All right, so at last week's Board of Selectmen's meeting, we talked about the school, and we were gonna reach out to the superintendent, see what they wanted to do as far as questions. So we've spent the week working on that, and also had conversations with legal regarding the petition that was turned in last September regarding the road salt, and based on section 2522, it does indicate that petitions need to be dealt with either by a special town meeting within 60 days or the next warrant. So because of COVID, it was received last September, we haven't had a warrant, so this is considered our next warrant, so the article needs to go on here. We have worked with the school and counted backwards of the requirements of signing orders and absentee ballots, and we've come up with a tentative date of April 27th, which is a Tuesday, in which the polls will be open from 8 to 8 to deal with the following questions. Article 1 is your moderator, and then after the election of moderator, the polls are open for the 12 hours to vote on the following referendum questions. So these will be all by secret ballot. Article 2 is just a copy and paste of the petition as submitted. Articles 3, 4, 5, and 6 are all school articles. So certainly, these were sent over from the finance director. She has approved all this. So I just need your blessing on the April 27th date for the election. And we have set a public hearing date with the school's approval of Monday, April 12th. Does that sound right? Does that sound right? Yeah, Monday, April 12th will be our public hearing. Law requires it's a minimum of 10 days before the election, so. Just your approval on the, really all you're approving, I mean, you'll sign it after the recommendations, but is the date, if that's okay with you.
That's fine.
Meets all the legal requirements, works with the school. Figured you'd be okay with it?
Yep.
Public hearing will be via Zoom.
Say that again?
The public hearing on the 12th that we eventually schedule will be via Zoom, and certainly we'll advertise that accordingly.
Okay.
But it's important that we're, calling this a special town meeting warrant and not a school warrant, because there is another article on there, so.
Okay.
We want to be sure that it's worded correctly, so. Good with that? We've proofed it, Michelle's proofed it, school's proofed it.
All right. So moving on to E, liquor license, public hearing.
So D is the order
Yeah.
that goes with it.
Oh, sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry.
So, anytime you call for a referendum vote, you have to sign an order, instructing the clerk to create said election. Minimum of 45 days before the election, so this order, somebody needs to motion for that vote, and then you guys all need to sign it.
Okay, I guess I'll make a motion for the order. It is hereby ordered that the following questions set forth below be placed on a referendum ballot for the election to be held on April 27, 2021, and that is attested copy of this order is placed on file with the town clerk of the town of Acton.
I'll second it.
Moved and seconded, all in favor? All opposed? Okay. All right. Now we'll do E, liquor license, public hearing.
We gotta sign this, correct?
Please. All right, so while he's signing, the liquor license application from Iron Tales, their yearly application. Looks like it expires May 1st, so, wanting to see if the board wants to schedule a public hearing to hear this. Looking at the calendar because it's full. So today's the 10th, so we'd need to put it in newspaper, I can tell you that well, I guess first of all, because it has to be via Zoom, our public hearings are via Zoom, it really probably shouldn't be on a Wednesday, because then we'd have to come here and there, and, so maybe a Thursday? Do you want to do Thursday, April 8th?
Does that fall in anything with the planning board conflicts or anything?
Planning board is meeting the 1st and 15th. Both of their April meetings are via Zoom because they have a public hearing both of those days.
What about warrant and finance?
Warrant and Finance, the only April date that the chairman gave me today was the 5th. It's possible they'll add more meetings, but they're trying to stick to a Monday schedule if possible,
Okay.
so we should be good with that.
All right, so you said April,
Yeah, I mean, it's just a shot in the dark, I'm just picking the date. I mean, that's far enough out for me to advertise. Does that work for you guys?
Yeah.
All right, so Iron Tales public hearing will be April 8th at, what time for liquor?
We'll do 6 o'clock, 6:30, 7?
6:30 would be fine with
Do
me.
6:30?
And that will be via Zoom.
okay.
Serious meetings coming up. Okay, we'll get that scheduled.
So F, warrant and finance request.
I don't think I gave one of you this because I don't have it in front of me. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
So normally, based on the policy, the Warrant and Finance sends things out, you know, if they send over, they want expense reports, or they want this or that, we very clearly in the policy said that we don't need, I mean, I don't want to say we don't need board approval, but we'll work through them and do it without, you know, without bringing them to you. This one's a little different, the selectmen are mentioned in it, and some references to the selectmen as far as helping gather some of the information, so I felt like this was different, where this one, you know, wasn't just get me A, B, and C, so I just want to go over a couple of them because I don't want to miss that it wasn't presented to the selectmen as requested. So, all right, so list of questions or requests from Warrant and Finance, okay. So number one is please submit the following question to MMA concerning warrant articles creating statutory reserve accounts. Number two is, would you please share my concern as described below? It's my understanding that issues remain outstanding with respect to this repair, so I'd like an explanation to share my concerns with the board. So this was an example. So Article 2 of a February 2020 special town meeting appropriated $18,454 for dam maintenance, and it sounds like he believes there's still some outstanding repairs. I'm not aware of any, but it sounds like he's got some. Handout was provided by the administrator. Remember when we were having problems with Sanford, we were going back and forth and everything wasn't done, eventually they solved it and gave you the refund. This may be an easier one to discuss with the committee at the 22nd if the chair sees it fit, because I'm not sure without asking what issues he believes are outstanding. I'm not sure what is outstanding on the work with the dam. I was under the impression Sanford finished it and then they sent the refund, so we may need to ask for clarification, but he does ask for you to see his concerns, so I wanted to make sure and pointed that out. Article 2, to see if the town will vote to appropriate some more money from the dams, so he's got questions on that. Article 3 is 7th Street, unresolved issues during Warrant and Finance deliberations in 2020. Warrant and Finance raised issues regarding the town's legal work and acceptance of 7th Street. He does reference that an email that I sent him saying that I've been instructed not to spend any more time or taxpayer money on it, but the board authorized us to ask the attorney to give a final opinion in writing that the process and the acceptance of 7th Street was done legally and put it in the road file. We did do that. I did find the email that was sent on June 20th of 2020, or June 6th of 2020, I'm sorry. I can just certainly resend that. We have a letter from Lankowski saying that everything was fine, so that one should be easy. But he wanted the board to make sure they saw that. Okay. So the rest, I think, are internal things that aren't, I don't think he doesn't reference the board, so some expense receipts, and I don't know, and if I can ask Dennis, I don't even know if he'll have the answer to this, but the treasurer, so like fire department detail expenses from 5/12 of 2020, it's a different fiscal year and a different warrant, so is that accurate that he wants to go back to the previous year as well? Okay.
That's my understanding.
Okay, so the treasurer wasn't sure, that's not on the current warrant or why, but she wanted to make sure that, so we're going back to 2020 and not the current. Transfer station stuff we can do, okay, Canal Road Bridge with Wakefield, so, will we have a copy of the contract prior to making recommendations? Certainly we can send that. All I've seen is a marked up proposal dated March of 2020 with a revised cost, very large contingency, letter to Wakefield. Wakefield Selectmen placed the cost per town at 112, the budget request is 125. So he just wants an explanation of why we went from 112 to 125, which I think you guys can explain. It appears from the proposal that the job is split between local contractors and the company supplying the structural components from the bridge. Who's guaranteeing the quality of the work? What types of when these types of jobs go downhill, he recommends that a single party be responsible. The lawyers make it real well. Everybody else is a loser. I don't know if those are questions we want to ask when...
Sounds like a statement more than a question.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if we want to address these with with Mr. Bean when he comes. I mean,
Yeah, I would think that's who, you know.
I mean, we'll cross as many off of these, a lot of this I can get to, some of it.
He's the one that's doing all the work, so yeah, we would ask. I would think that would be a Mr. Bean.
Yeah, I think we've taken that down to just one person doing the work, correct?
Yeah.
Right,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
why I wanted
I
him
mean,
to
initially,
come.
we had talked about,
Mr. Bean.
we had talked about the bridge getting done, and then Wakefield doing part of it, and our guys doing part of it, but yeah, we've got this one company now doing the whole thing, so.
So the, 7th Street, and then there's another document that he's got, email notes from 2020, May of 2020 regarding the 7th Street. I guess, I mean, I did send out the lawyer's opinion last year that 7th Street was done legally and properly, it was town approved, and, you know, and with all due respect, I'm just not sure what else to give him.
Well, I don't understand where, I mean, I guess.
Maybe, unless he didn't get it, we'll go, you know, maybe,
We'll send it to him, but at the end of the day, the question's more or less a legal opinion. It's not whether or not we're, you know, there's budget for that single road by itself or anything. I just don't understand whether the finance committee, that's a finance committee question.
I don't know. I mean, it's
There should be a
always-
question that's be up here on Wednesday nights if there's a legal issue, but, I think that came up last year, and that was the same question that was answered. A couple of those questions were answered last year.
So, we'll resend the 7th Street,
Yeah,
maybe
resend it
maybe it
to
didn't
him.
go,
Yeah.
and see, the statutory, so please submit the following question to Maine Municipal containing warrant articles. Now, I guess, I mean, we haven't released a warrant to the Warrant and Finance, you know, what if, for the sake of conversation, there's no statutory reserve accounts on there? You know, we haven't have a warrant to ask, you know what I mean, to ask that question yet, so Michelle wasn't sure where that was coming from. Did you wanna wait until you saw the warrant and maybe ask a question on a specific one? Or are we assuming that one's gonna have these words in it? Can you add any, is it okay if he, you shed any light?
All I can say is I can ask these questions, Jen, try to, and I'll get back to you. I just forwarded the questions.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate that.
That was sent to me,
Yeah,
and
so we should be able to knock 60–70% of them right off, because there are a lot of internal things. But a couple of them we're just not, need some clarity on, and where they mentioned the board, I figured I'd point to their attention.
Yeah.
I didn't read all the minor ones that just expense accounts, because that's stuff we can do.
I'll probably not remember exactly what your questions were, so if you can just
Yeah.
send me an email, and I'll get clarification.
And maybe at that 22nd meeting, the board can follow up anything on 7th Street with this member, or the statutory reserve accounts. I know we've asked Maine Municipal in the past, so I can pull those opinions again.
With 7th Street, we just do exactly what we send them the information. I think that we've already discussed that enough.
Thank you,
And,
Dennis.
Thank you.
All right, so we'll resend it, and stick with it. Last year, we told them that we were done, you know, really looking into it, because it's a year behind, so we'll stand behind that again? Yes?
Yes. All right. Public comment?
Hi, my name's Richard Nass. I currently am the former chair of the Marijuana Committee, which met a couple of years ago, so apparently it's come up tonight again. I'm a little confused as to exactly what Mr. Fechtel wants you to do. He's described a process that's ongoing. In case anybody didn't notice, today was the first day the legislature went back into session for a year. What he's describing is a legislative process, okay, that's ongoing and very controversial. And I'll give you my opinion, it's probably going to go to court so slow motion marijuana is, we're year 4 or year 5 into this now, and the state's beginning to collect money. So 2 points from his presentation here. 53 towns out of 500 towns in Maine have agreed to allow marijuana activity in town. The legislature may or may not do something, we don't know. My suggestion is going to go to court. If you decide at some point that you want more advice from legislature, from a marijuana committee, I'd be happy to serve on it. I would suggest that you wait a while and figure out what the heck the legislature's going to do, if they do anything. This is the first year of a 2-year session to start out with. Whether they'll tackle this whole thing as he describes it or not, I have no idea. He doesn't either. So the issue, though, currently the law provides that the towns have to approve, the town legislative body, that's not the selectmen, that's the town meeting, has to
Right.
approve any of these things. And apparently they're proposing to put medical marijuana in the same category. They have to be approved by the town legislative body. That is my understanding of where they're going to try to go with this.
Okay.
David's point about who's going to enforce this is where we're going to end up with this. You can't enforce what you got now. You're, in the end, after all this stuff passes, you're still not going to, who are you going to send up there to knock on somebody's door who's doing medical marijuana and then say, you know, we're coming in, we'd like to see what you're doing, and they're saying, no, you're not. You know, you got a search warrant?
Exactly.
Who in this town is in charge of search warrants, right?
Right.
So that's where we're going with this.
Yep.
I would suggest you wait. I don't know what he's got in mind. This whole thing about proposal for action, whose proposal? Who's proposing that? What's your
Is that on there? I didn't
I
see
believe
that.
that's his recommendation.
That's a,
Page 8?
That's just his recommendation.
Yeah.
that's a recommendation.
Okay.
Yeah,
his
that's not a, thank you.
Thanks.
So we probably don't wanna get past those, because they're thinking we're proposing that.
No, it's, I mean, the cover very clearly, sorry Joyce, the cover very clearly says that it's
Right.
a presentation
It's a
by Gil Tech, so
presentation.
it's his recommendation,
Yep.
so that's all.
I think everybody's a lot taller than I am.
I'd say so.
Well, anyway, I sort of wanted to say what was just said, but the other thing we have to remember, it's still a federal crime. Marijuana is still a federal crime. And the feds, if they choose to, can overrun the state law. And it can be anything from a slap on the wrist to $1,000 or a year in jail. That, you know, I mean, that's always in the back of my mind when this has come up. This is not, it's the law, it's the federal law. The other thing I wanted to say was when you were talking about moorings. When I was on the planning board, things like that came up a few times. And one of the things that always came up was, it's again one of those, how do you enforce it? But it's pretty simple, and since I live on a lake, I'll put myself there. Somebody puts a mooring in front of my house. I'm sorry, guys. The only way you can get to it is by trespassing on my land. And I'm not going to let you come in and out of my land all the time. And I don't remember the exact thing that came up a while back with that nice couple, but if someone was interfering with their docking, how did they get to that moor? You know, if they have to cross people's land, you know,
It is trespassing.
it's trespassing.
Yeah, but they don't always do that.
They're going on
You know,
public
the dinghy,
docks.
Like the one up there, I believe there's an actual right-of-way for people to launch out.
I know there was some kind of.
Yeah, I think it was a
Well,
right away
is
for the
going out
road.
of there and parking.
We talked about it before, you know.
Yeah, I think it's the people that were on the back side of the,
They were on the back.
They're on the back lot.
right.
You know, you're trespassing. And
That does make sense.
That might fall under the, who's gonna go knock on the door and say, show me your marijuana law. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I go on? I yield back. Ed, last week I had brought up to you about the motion that you guys had passed on the 7th.
You did.
Remember I mentioned it to you?
And I have it right here on my notes to bring up.
Okay, very good.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I was talking to some people, and a couple weeks, well, a little while ago, you guys had just suggested that when Leslie brought up the thing with the road committee and the road agents about the striping on the roads, you had stated that you guys were going to bring it forward. It's my understanding now you're not, and I just would like you to explain to me why you're not going to bring it forward. Whomever, it doesn't matter.
When we talked about it, we talked about, we could put it on a separate article. We never said we were going to do it, but we said we could. Then when we talked to the road commissioners, and the road commissioners both pretty much said that they weren't ready for it, that we felt that if they weren't ready for it, then why are we putting forward $12,000 at the time when we're cutting other stuff to keep our tax rate from being 55 cents a thousand more than it is already. So that's why we did that. And so we did not say we were going to, we could if we needed to.
It was a misunderstanding on my part. All right, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. On the electrical side of it, Mr. Long had brought up to me about the vote that we had taken when we were talking with our code enforcement officer, as far as not doing the electrical inspections anymore. I re-watched the tape this afternoon, and it states pretty clear in the tape that electrical permits weren't going to be required anymore, but the state was going to do the multifamily and commercial. Our inspector could do the residential, because it could fall under the residential side of it. So, yeah, single family. So the only thing he's going to be doing is the single family. And if he sees anything out of whack, he's definitely calling the state in on it, but he is qualified to do that.
The motion was clear that that's your intent.
Yep, that was, yeah, when I watched it, that's how the motion went and whatnot that I saw.
So he will be doing single family, but not...
Single family, but not commercial.
Commercial, okay.
And not multifamily. So,
No, I wasn't questioning the motion in itself.
okay,
What I was questioning was the wording of the motion. And nowhere in the motion was electrical mentioned. And that's an oversight or whatever. If you rewatch it, there was no word, you had mentioned electrical, mechanical,
yeah.
and you had
But we did it
said,
in two different votes.
right, you had said, let's do mechanical first, which you
Yeah,
did.
yeah.
Then you went to electrical, and he explained all this stuff about single-family housing. I understand all that,
Okay.
but what I'm saying is, when the actual motions were made, the word electrical was not brought up. So when Roland asked at the end of it, for a read for it,
Okay,
the young lady here had said electrical was in there, but if you watch the tape, there's no word of electrical mentioned in there. And I just want you guys to clarify that so that there's no
okay.
recourse earlier, that's all.
All right, we'll watch it, and,
Well, yeah, I mean, I thought it said electrical, so in that case,
Well, and
I can, yeah, no, it's okay.
Wicked big deal.
And when you told us to, when we double checked that, what we were looking at, when we showed you was single family is what we were told to look for, so.
Yeah, yeah.
Now that
so-
Alright.
we hear it directly from you, and that's part of the
Yeah.
reason it's so helpful, instead of approaching the selectmen
To bring
after
it up,
meetings.
yeah, during the
public
meeting,
hearing,
so-
So we can take notes and
Yeah,
make sure we got.
I
what
mean,
you
with
were
that, we
looking
can make a motion right now.
for. If you want, I mean,
Yeah,
I
yeah, we'll make a motion right now to clarify that,
don't know if it's necessary, but it's.
yeah, I don't see how I want to word it.
yeah, how would you word it?
The electrical will be,
Just to add the word electrical to the motion that was previously.
there we go. Yes, I'll make a motion that we add the word electrical to the motion previously made with our code enforcement officer when we were discussing single-family, multi-person, and commercial with in regards to electrical. We add the word electrical to that motion.
Kim wasn't there that evening,
It
so.
wasn't there, so...
Okay.
We have to-
Yep.
I guess I'll second that.
Okay.
Right, so it's been clarified, fixed, all right, so it's moved, seconded, all in favor?
Yep.
All opposed? All right, thank you.
Thanks.
All righty. How about some announcements?
Accept them as read? No.
Should I read these all out, or does everybody?
You wanted him.
All right, so 3:11, we have a warrant and finance at the school, which is at 5 PM.
Just for the school articles.
Yep. On 3/12, we have the rec committee meeting at 5:30. On the 17th, we have a capital improvement committee at 4 PM. On the 17th, we have a board of selectmen's meeting at 6. On the 18th, there'll be a planning board meeting at 6. On the 22nd, warrant and finance committee at 6. 24th, board of selectmen, 6. 27th, Mary Grant, 11 AM. 29th, warrant and finance committee meeting at 6 PM. And on the 31st, it's board of selectmen again.
Nice to see Mary Grant on there, that's a sign of spring.
Yes, got that right. All right, well, I'm looking for a motion.
I'll make a motion with John.
Seconded?
Moved and seconded, all in favor? All opposed? Good evening, everybody.